First of all, thank you for having my film, and thank you everybody for coming. We're really happy to show our film in Slovenia. It was a TV story about Fakhri is a businesswoman, and there were a lot of TV stories about her even before. But when I heard her story, one of the stories that really inspired me was when she was talking about starting a business after having lost her husband during the war in Kosovo, and getting a driving license and being prejudiced for working and driving. For me, that was, even though I was born and raised in Kosovo, in Pristina, even for me, it was a little bit of a strange situation. So I wanted to really go at least meet her and ask her if she wants me to make a film about her. When I met her in person, it was really her character that inspired me even more. I think she has gone through so much that I could have made many films about her, but her character was what really impressed me. And then meeting her in person, I was like, it felt even like a duty to make a film about this strong woman, because we are lacking strong female characters on screen. So I was like, this has to be her. It has to be her on screen. That's why I decided to do it. I stick to it. I love the story from the very first time, and I still do. I still love it.
And when you came into contact with Fakhri, was she accepting of you making a film about her from the beginning? And how did you work with her then when you decided that this is going to become a film?
Yes, well, as I said, I went almost immediately after I saw the story, I went to meet her. My first impression was like, maybe she's tired of all the people doing stories about her. There were people who did documentaries about her. So I was afraid she's going to say no, but for me, I was like, okay, I will at least congratulate her and thank her for doing everything, or at least encourage her. But she didn't need my encouragement, because, as I said, she was this really strong. She's much stronger than me, or than many women I know. So she really, I ended up being the encouraged one. But at the same time, a little bit before going to meet her, I had worked with Julka Goshi on a short film. So when I first met Fakhri, I went together with Julka and another friend of ours, Armand Morina. So they're both really famous actors in Kosovo, and they're really good actors, both of them. So it was a much easier approach, because she recognized them, she had known them from before. So she really felt comfortable with us from the very beginning. Of course, it took me some time to explain how does it work with fiction, because it's not the same. She had experience with documentary, but of course it's not the same. There are things we needed to cut out, and I didn't want her to have fake expectations of the film, because I knew I cannot have everything she's talking about in one film. So that was a little bit of preparation on telling her how does it really work with fiction film. But at the same time, I went and talked to her for long hours. I tried not to go too often, because each time I would go there, she could not sleep the whole night, because she had to bring back all those memories. So I really tried not to hurt her during the process, although you need to do research and understand how does it really feel to be her. At the same time, I really tried to go less times, but then stay longer with her to get everything I need, and not to go too often, to go back to her.
And you mentioned that you had to explain to her that this is fiction, and probably how this is going to work. So I'm wondering, what responsibilities did you have as a director and also a screenwriter when adapting such a story for a fictional format? And I'm also asking, in a way, how does one stay truthful to the story while still adapting this story into a feature film, which has its own possibilities or perhaps even limitations? And could you describe how, in this sense, the screenplay was being developed?
Well, yes, it was hard. It's hard, first of all, because you're basing it in a true story. Then it's hard because the character is alive, and she's going to see the film at the end. And then at the same time, it's a very sensitive topic. So for me, it was really important that, of course, I make a film that the audience will connect to, and not only the audiences that really have gone through that or felt the same, but a really wide audience in the world. So it was really struggling and debating between what to leave in and what to cut out and what part of her life to focus on. So for me, that was really, of course, I was the whole time afraid whether she's going to like the film at the end when she sees it, because I did not want to hurt her more after she sees the film. But at the same time, I wanted the audience to connect and at least to feel some encouragement, hopefully, because I'm encouraged by her every day, every time I see her. I mean, just the way she coped with everything and continued to move on as much as she could, and made business and made all those women work together. For me, that was always, that keeps impressing me each time I think about it. So I really, that's how I decided that I want to focus the story on that part. And then I just had to always remind myself that I'm making a fiction. This is not a documentary, it's a fiction. But at the same time, I really wanted to have a realistic approach because I thought the story deserved that.
And also a lot of films coming from Kosovo deal with the war that happened there in one way or another. Either it's in the background, it's in the fore. I was wondering, what were the biggest challenges for you to portray this post-war period? Also, how did this story relate to your own personal experience of that post-war period, perhaps?
Well, for me, it is hard. I mean, I was 16 when the war happened, so for us, it is a fresh memory. At the same time, I do think it's important to talk about it through film or through anything, because we need to inform the audiences, but also for ourselves to to raise discussion. So it wasn't easy, but at the same time, in a way, of course, it helps. It helps when you have gone through it. I luckily haven't lost anyone during the war, but I've been in Kosovo all the time. I mean, at some point we left with my mom and my brother. We left the country, but at the same time, we did feel all the bombings and everything, and all the news about people losing their beloved ones. So I really try to remember how did it feel for me and how scary it was, and at the same time to understand how do I feel myself now. While I was writing, I also became a mother, so I try to put myself on Fahri's shoes, because it's hard to raise children even nowadays. And I have my husband. I'm not in a war. I'm 20 years after the war, so it's not that I'm scared that something's going on, and still it's hard. And then I was trying, how must it felt to must have been horrible to be a mother at that point while you're searching for your husband and not knowing where he is he ever gonna come back, and then having to deal, having to work to provide for your kids, and then dealing with the society. I mean, this is something I was really looking deep down and searching into my emotions and my feelings, into understanding how did she really feel, because when you see Fakhri, even now, she's such a strong and stoic person, so she doesn't really give you a lot of emotion, and you don't really know where is she or how is she feeling. So for me, that was something important to portray in the character as well, so that we kind of portray her inner world in different kind of ways, rather than have her express it either physically or emotionally. So that's something I really try to work on with Ylka as well, because we really try to be in Fakhri's skin, and how was it for her to have all that pain and be a mother and still have to deal with gender issues in that time.
Something that really not surprised me, but hit me hard when I was watching this film was the fact that these women, although, their husbands passed away, they're widows, which is a trauma in itself. They as widows are also supposed to submit to their symbolic patriarchal authority of their deceased husband. And that for me was, kind of unimaginable. How was it surprising for you as well, or was it something that you researched a lot? You know, this situation of widows.
Well, for me, what was surprising was the reaction, more the reaction of the society towards them, rather than I know my country, and I know the rural areas really well. My father comes from, I have cousins in rural areas, so I'm not, I was born and raised in Pristina, but it's not that I was so distant from the rural side of Kosovo. At the same time, I was surprised for the reaction of the society, not so much of the women, because these women are born and raised to respect and to be who they are as women, as a position, as a certain position they have in the family and in the society, the way they're taught as girls and raised up. So I'm not surprised by what they do, and they've lost their husband, and it's a moral thing that they didn't even want to get married. They still had to respect their status of being someone's wife, although their husbands were not there. They still had to respect their families. So I knew that that's what expected. So I wasn't surprised much from the women, because at the same time they were dealing with pain and trauma and everything. So I think whatever they would have done, I wouldn't be surprised. At the same, I was surprised by the society, because we are really known. I mean, before the war, we were occupied. We were really economically really bad. A lot of Albanians were thrown out of jobs, and yet there were a lot of people who were working in the West, and they would send money back. So we helped each other in many situations, and we are really known for hospitality. We like people coming, and if they come to their house, you do all the honoring them, everything honoring them. At the same time, when this widow was had no husband, if you're saying the husband should be the one working, she didn't have the husband at home. The grandfather could not help her much, and she had kids to raise. For me, that was the surprising part, because if somebody would ask me what would happen to a woman working in a village, I would say the whole village would support her. That would be my answer, coming from the same country. But it was not her case. So for me, I mean, although that's not much something I really like to focus more on her power to overcome all that, and really hopefully to encourage other people to do the same, whether they're men or women or boys or girls. I hope just her story is as inspiring for other people as it was for me.
Perhaps there's a question from the audience that we could take.
Hello, congratulations. It was really beautiful film, and also the story is really remarkable, and also, I mean, you did it really, really well. So really congratulations. And also I like the actors, the actresses, they were really great. Were they all the actors from theater, and or they were also some of them from the village, or I mean, how did you take the actors?
Yeah, thank you for all. I'm really glad that you like the film. The actors are I mean, almost everybody is professional besides the boy, who and the extras, the women that are playing the extras, they are from the village. Well, Ylka Goshi, as I said, I worked with her on a short film. She is a well-known actress, but we did not know each other before until I worked with her, and I really liked her working with her in the short film. So when I first met Fakhri, we went together to meet her. So I really casted the main character, the main actress, before even starting to write the script, and that was really helpful for me, because I like when I mean, Kosovo is small, so I almost know every actor, maybe not the students who are coming in younger generations, but for the middle-aged roles and older roles, I really know everybody. So when I'm writing the script, I kind of know who's going to play. But of course, for such a big role, I was really lucky to have Ylka on board from the beginning, because we both we both lived with a character from the very beginning. So, and it took me a while until I started to write the script, because I had to graduate and then I had 2 kids. So only maybe 5 years after meeting first time Fakhri, it is when I started to write the script. And then it took many more years to raise funds and this and that. So, but it was helpful because Yulka lived with a character from the beginning, and she understood, and she went and met Fakhri again. And for me, it's really, acting is really important to me. I love casting. I love working with actors, and I give a lot of attention to good acting. So everything else comes after the acting. So, I mean, first the script, then the acting, then camera and lights and the set and everything. So I really enjoy that part, but I really do think it's important. And then 2 of other roles that then I did audition, of course. Some of the actors I knew that I want to take, so I just called them and wanted to test them once again on the role. But for the women who have smaller roles, they came to the audition and I casted them. The hardest roles to cast were the boy, whom I was recommended by other directors, and I really liked and I loved working with him. With the daughter, I've worked before, so I casted her immediately. She is now an actress, but she's been acting since she was 2 years old. And the grandfather was hard. I didn't work with Zgjoi before. I was very resistant if I should cast him. He's very famous, and they all have played in TV series, theater, and films. So they're not like we don't have a lot of production in TV or theater or film. So actors pretty much play in everything they're asked for. But then he was recommended to me by the producers. He's a really well-known actor, but somehow I was trying to find someone else. But then when I met Sean, I really liked him in the rehearsals, and he was really amazing to work with. So I'm really happy. I was resistant, as I said, because I saw him on a lot of reciting, because he writes also poems, and I was like, maybe he's going to be, I was prejudicing him because I thought maybe he's going to be a little bit theatrical on my film, but he's I think he's the most professional person I've ever worked with. So I hope I'll work again with him, actually.
Another question at this point? No? Perhaps I would just like to ask you, what was then your work with the main actress, especially regarding the fact that the dialogues are really sparse. The camera focuses a lot on her face and her facial expressions.
So how did I work? The question is, how did I work with her?
Yes, and what were like the main guidances for her?
Well, I mean, first of all, we were both, it was for both of us was the first time we were doing a feature film, and she is in every scene. So it was hard for her, it was hard for me, because she is, and the character is very physical, and it gains a lot of like strong emotions. So it was for me, first of all, in rehearsals, I mean, we did classical rehearsals of rehearsing scenes, and then we rehearsed a little bit on set, but I did not worry so much about that part, because she's a professional actress. I knew she's gonna learn the lines, and I am very specific in what the characters say. If they find it that a sentence should be said differently, sometimes I'm open about it, because if it sounds more natural for you to say different order, let's say, that's fine, but I don't like to add, especially not on this film, to have too much dialogue. But we mostly, when we were rehearsing, it was really long discussions. We opened to each other about the war, and it was the first time I heard what happened to her during the war, to Yulka, and then I told her what happened to me during the war, and then we cried, and then we did all these kind of really digging deep into how it was for us during the war, and then how we coped with it after the war. But also we really discussed a lot, how must it feel to really be Fakhri. Like how does a woman like Fakhri feel having to take over the house and having to search for her husband and having to deal with society, to 2 children, the father-in-law. I mean, it was a lot of things. And how do you portray that without having to describe too much? Because when you come, that's why the dialogue is also very specific, because when you're coming from a country like Kosovo, not many people know about. I mean, they know war, something, Balkans, but that's it. And then not much about culture and the traditions and this and that. And then we a lot of times end up being very descriptive in our films. So that's something we really worked on, even with acting and dialogue. So I just really wanted the audience to connect with her. And because I love the real character, I wanted the camera to be on her the whole time. So even when someone says that, I really wanted to see her reaction more than the other person who's talking, let's say, because it was about her, it was about her journey, it was about her fight. And for me, it was important that we have that realistic approach, that the camera is most of the time on her, so that we really feel everything she's going through, rather than have to explain things much more than needed. And basically that was it. I mean, the biggest maybe challenge was to keep the continuity, because she is in every scene. So I had to really pay a lot of attention of if she's talking the same in every scene, is she what is her emotional journey at that moment, and things like that. But yeah, I hope we did a good job at the end.
Yeah, I think you did a great job. For me, it was very powerful how Fakhri in the film, she's never triumphant about her, work. There are small victories, and she smiles a bit, but she stays very calm. And yeah, it's this calmness is even more powerful than if we would see someone really celebrating all these little victories that happen to her. But also I was wondering a bit, was this story with the honey there in the real story, or was that something you put into the film as this kind of a framework, to begin and end with, in a way?
Yeah, I just wanted to add up to the first before answering this question. And I was raised by family, but also I think it's in our culture not to talk a lot. So even when we're talking about joking and everything, it's so much in the surface, but we really don't talk a lot about our emotions. So it's even talking about the boyfriend or something, that even less, but even of how do you feel or something, we really, I don't know, it's we don't open up that much. So for me, that was a kind of also experience that I had throughout my life. Now we're talking a little bit more because we're understood that it's important to talk about your feelings, but I grew up not having to, you just had to understand how everybody's feeling, but not verbally say it. So for me, it was my father said a lot of short sentences that I had to understand what he's implying, but it was never an open conversation, more with my mother. But then I used that real experience to portray how people communicate or how they used to communicate even more before. And the bees, yes, I added maybe I made them longer than they were in the real life, but she worked with bees. And a thing that she told me once, she was like, I worked with bees, but they always stung me. She was like, because I wasn't calm, and they feel it. And I was always anxious about what's going on around me, and the bees feel it. And then one really important sentence that's why I really wanted to keep the bees as a metaphor, but to show her inner feelings, but also she told me once that bees would sting me every time that I would go, and because she was like, and then she was comparing the women to the bees. She was like, widowed women are like bees. if you're angry and you're like aggressive to them, they're going to be aggressive to you. If you're tender and nice to them, they're nice to you. So she was like, I had to use a very tender and gradual approach to convince them to join me in the business. Otherwise, they were really attacking me and they didn't want to. So for me, that was really interesting that she compared them to the bees, and then and that the bees were biting her. I mean, besides everything, even the bees are stinging you. And that was for me really interesting that happened to her. And I wanted to keep that element on the film. But yes, they were present in her life. But at some point she got rid of the bees because she was working with Iva.
Another question, perhaps? Yeah.
How long did it take you from the idea to the shooting?
Well, as I said, it took me 5 years to start writing because I graduated and then the kids. And it took us 5 years from the moment I started writing, mostly because of the funds. But I did use that time then because I was writing nonstop. So it was like basically fundraising and writing 4 years of until the shooting, but then 5 years until the editing and everything is finished. Now we're dealing with promoting it, so it's not really ending, but it was like 5 years of quite intensive work that we did together with the producers and everybody.
Was it hard to get the funding?
It's hard because the Kosovo Cinematography Center is on one side doing a really good job supporting young filmmakers and giving really making good juries. There was a Slovenian producer on the jury when I was there, the jury is really professional and they're selecting really qualitative projects, but at the same time we only got 140,000 euros. And when you get that from your country, then you're like have to go to a lot of other countries. And we usually very naturally co-produce with Macedonia and Albania first. And then we applied in Switzerland. They refused us the first time. And then the next year they jumped in. So it was basically a little bit delayed because of Switzerland. Even Albania refused us the first time, and then the second time they gave us funds. So this made the budget whole, but then every applying is like taking time until you get to respond. And first you have to get it from your own country to be eligible to apply for co-production. So it wasn't so hard, but it took time. And then Switzerland was the first project that ever got funding in Switzerland. And the TV station from Geneva jumped in the project in the script stage, which is not usual, but that's really helping with the next project as well, because they're in the project as well. So we were lucky to have that funding, because now another film from Kosovo is getting funding from Switzerland. So I think it opened a new door, but first of all, we're hoping that our center will start supporting with bigger budgets, because when you have a better start, then you're better off to continue and search for other funds.
Did the finish of the film, was it affected by the pandemic, or did you finish it before it started? Or
well, the post-production was affected because the second editor that I worked with, he was studying in Prague. So I was editing in Prague and at his school, and then one day we went to edit and the studios were closed. So they just told us, you can't get in, bye. And I was like, what? We need to finish. And of course we knew that the whole world is shutting down, but we didn't care. We wanted to finish the film because we were almost locking the picture. And then my husband called me. He was like, everybody is buying everything on the market. You need to come back. And I was like, don't panic. You're just panicking because you're with the kids. I will be back. I need to finish the film. And then the producer called me and he was like, Blerta, you really have to come back to your family. It's like, forget about the film, just get on that bus. And because I had to take a bus and then a plane. and just come back as the whole world is looking down. So when the producer told me, I was like, okay, I gotta be serious. We found a new studio and we worked for a couple of more days, but then I had to really come back because everything was like shut down. And then we actually decided upon the ending scene online. So that was really a very stressful decision to make on Zoom. But we did it. We made it online because we had no other choice, and I could not see my film for the last time on a big screen to approve it. So I was just like, okay, this film is locked. Good luck to us all. And then the whole post-production of sound was online. And when I went mixing and color grading, it was a whole new story how I traveled to Switzerland to finish the film. It was a real drama to get there and then come back and all that. But yeah, we made it somehow.
And then you went to Sundance and you won.
Yeah, virtually won because Sundance was also online completely.
But it was a great success, right? First film, and
we're happy. No, it was a great reward. People really worked. It wasn't just me, of course. As writer director, you're alone at the beginning and then you end up alone at the end. It's quite a lonely process, but at some point a lot of people really join, and I am very grateful to the fact that we really gathered amazing people around us, and it was really nice to work because everybody worked really hard and loved the project from the beginning. So it was such a reward, because then you're like, you don't feel guilty for making them work hard. It's like, okay, we got the awards, and it's a great reward. Yeah. I mean, we got 3 awards, but at the same time, it's a reward because of the topic it's treating, and it's a great reward for all the work everybody did. So yes, we're really grateful and thankful that it happened.
Perhaps if there's no other question from the audience, could you tell us when did Fakhri see the film and what was her response? Because you mentioned that you did fear a bit what her response is going to be.
Yeah, well, we called her. I did not want to show her unfinished film, because then I was like, what if she doesn't like it? I did call her before the shooting and ask her, do you want me to call the character Fakhri? Because then in the editing, I cannot change her. So I was like, if you don't like the film, and I did not want her to read the script, because then I was like, she will not be able to understand how is it going to look into the film. But I just wanted to make sure if she wants me to call her Fakhri before seeing the film. And she said, just go with it. She makes decisions fast. Just go with it. Don't worry. And then I did not want to show her rough cuts or anything. So after finishing the film, we called her to come at the studio and see the film. And we arranged a date, and she could not show up because she is busy with her business. She was like, I don't have time. And then she canceled. So we were like trying to get her to the studio a few times, but she couldn't. And then we sent the film to Sundance. And when we got the news from Sundance, I was like, I really need approval from Fakhri. I was like, we cannot say yes to Sundance if she doesn't say yes. So I went to her and showed her the film on laptop, and I was staring at her face for 83 minutes, and she didn't give me any sign. I wasn't sure if she likes the film or not, because she was just watching blank, pitch blank, no emotion. So I was like, oh my God, I don't think she likes this film. And then the film is over, and then I look at her, and she's like, again, no emotions, but it's really typical of her. And she's like, it's a very good film. You guys did a really good job. Ülke has worked very well. And she was like, a lot of things look exactly how I went through. But you should have let me hit the guy at the end of the film. I'm like, oh God. Yes. So I was really relieved. It was really stressful to show her the film, because we were fine. We had a contract with her that we're gonna use her life story to make a film, and that she has to accept the story we make based on my artistic choices. But for me, I don't know what would I have would have done if she said no, if she said, I don't like this film, I don't want you to identify me with this film. I don't know, because it was really important for me that I don't hurt her when she sees the film, because I knew she had expectations about it and she was excited about it. And at the same time, I really wanted her to be with us in the festival journey as well. So I'm really happy she liked it, and she was with us in a couple of festivals. She was in the Q&A for Sundance. She was in Zurich Film Festival. She was in Pristina Film Festival, which was a very emotional screening, of course, because everybody related to her and the story. So I'm really, really happy that she is, that we're still friends, and that she loves the film, and she's also enjoying the recognition the film is getting, because as she says, it's important that people hear this story, because this is not just me. I'm not the only one. There are a lot of women in Kosovo who have worked hard, who have moved on in a way, and who had gone through obstacles the way she did. So I'm really happy that she loved the film and that she's still with us.
Thank you so much, Blerta, for talking to us, for showing us this film. I think we can wrap it up, and the audience is invited to the Kinodvor Cafe for a gratis Viljamovka, to cheer to the festival City of Women and to cheer to Kosovo women, I would say. So thank you so much once again.
Thank you very much for having our film and having me on the Q&A, and thank you for coming. Nice talking to you all. Thank you.
Thank you.